the dates and places where McCord lived when he was telling him to Larry Wyatt. Why don't you just check to be sure I have them right?
I hope I have them right. After all, he moved so often, and 8 years is a long time to remember.
I realize that. I appreciate your help.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I just don't understand what all this has to do with finding the men who kidnapped Nola.
Well, I'm trying to get a more complete picture of Mr. McCord's past so we can figure out where Crocker and Loomis fit in. That way, maybe we can second-guess what their next move is going to be.
That makes sense.
Now, Miss Manzini, you were saying something earlier about Mr. McCord always hiring young, unmarried girls to...
Unmarried and pregnant girls.
Yeah, right. Young, unmarried, pregnant girls to work for him, supervising his household staff. Why?
I have no idea.
Did you know any of the girls other than Nola Reardon, I mean?
Oh, no. All that happened after I left him. Professionally, I mean. You see, I was Quinton's archaeological assistant for a number of years, or... did I already tell you that?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so you never knew any of it?
No, not personally. Although I know he did have an Italian girl, unmarried and pregnant, working for him when he lived outside of Florence, and another one in San Moritz, and another one that I heard about who worked for him when he lived in Nice. That's in the south of France.
Right. Yes. Well, I think I have everything I need here. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm just as anxious for you to catch Nola's captors as Quinton is. I was wondering, am I free to go home now? I mean, I have so much to do, you know, commitments, obligations.
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to stay here a little while longer until the Canadian authorities can apprehend Crocker and Loomis. If they are still in Canada, that is.
That could take quite some time.
Well, let's hope not. Well, Mr. McCord, thank you for the use of your library.
You're quite welcome, Lieutenant. Anytime.
Thank you very much for your cooperation, Miss Manson.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
There is one more thing, though.
Oh, and what's that?
Well, Mike, you were there. You explain it.
Yeah, well, I was at the hospital talking to Nola Reardon today.
About what?
Well, I had to ask her some questions about the kidnapping.
Well, do you think that's wise? She's been ill recently.
No, I spoke to her doctors. They said it was all right, so everything was fine.
Of course, I'm sorry.
Anyway, while we were discussing things, her friend, Gracie Middleton, came in, and I overheard in the course of the conversation them talking about a secret room someplace in here. They mentioned it was on the 3rd floor, that it was, entranceway was blocked by drapes, and the door had a heavy padlock on it. Does that ring a bell with you?
Why do you ask?
Mr. McCord, we don't have a search warrant with us, but we can get one if we have to. So it could save us a lot of time and trouble if you'd take us up there, show it to us. Unless there's some reason that you'd rather not.
Well, of course you may see the room. The only reason I didn't agree sooner was because you used the word secret.
Oh, well, that's the term that Nola and her friend used.
Ah, Nola's overactive imagination again.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sure you're right, but I'd still like to take a look at it.
Well, by all means.
So why'd you make such a big deal about making us wait downstairs, Mr. McCord?
Well, I had to find Fritz to remove the guard dog. You see, the dog is a Doberman, tends to be a bit vicious.
You have a guard dog up here? Why?
Well, Lieutenant, this is a huge space, and only 2 of the rooms are occupied, one by Mrs. Renfield, and the other down at the other end of the hall by our houseman and chauffeur, Fritz.
I asked Mr. McCord for a dog up here for extra protection.
I see. So, this is the room we're talking about, right?
Yes. Mrs. Renfield, would you pull back the drapes so we can
Certainly.
enter? Thank you.
You have this door hidden. None of the others are.
It was this way when we moved into the house. I saw no reason to change it.
Was the padlock on the door then?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it was. And since I was able to locate the key.
You didn't see any reason to change that either?
Exactly. Now, would you like me to open the door?
Please.
Oh, good. I was afraid I was going to be late.
For what?
Well, I want to see what's in the room, too. Oh, that's it. You and Lieutenant Wyatt don't mind.
Mr. McCord?
Why not? use this room as a storeroom for items I use in my archaeological research.
Mr. McCord, would you mind opening some of these cartons for me?
Of course. You see, the rest of the cartons are filled with similar objects. They're far too valuable to leave laying around in the laboratory, since it appears that Silas Crocker is still at large.
Oh, so you put all this stuff in here after you came back from rescuing Nola?
The items were moved in here once it was apparent that Silas Crocker had escaped from that island with his life and may well be headed for Springfield.
Well, it seemed logical at the time to make use of this room. You see, it's hidden from the inquisitive eye in the corridor, and the door has a padlock on it.
What's that smell?
That is not a smell, Lieutenant. That is a scent. The scent of English lavender. I like to fill empty rooms with it. It helps to keep them fresh. And it reminds me of my home in England.
So, as you can see, we store valuable artifacts here, priceless artifacts, to keep people like Crocker away from them. You see, Lieutenant, there are certain people in this world who think of only the monetary value of such objects instead of their potential value to mankind.
I take it you're referring to the golden cradle.
Well, precisely.
Now, that's the cradle that you described for me at the police station, the one with the jewels set into solid gold.
Exactly. A priceless object that had no value to me at all until I was able to use it to secure Nola's release.
Now, from the look of the walls, this was originally a nursery. I don't think that's kind of strange, a nursery with a hidden door, a padlock.
Lieutenant, as Mrs. Renfield and I have already told you, we simply rented the house. I can offer no explanation for the padlock, the draperies, or the room itself. Well, have you seen enough?
Oh, yes, doesn't appear that there's anything strange or unusual about it, contrary to Nola and Gracie's comments.
What's this?
Was a nanny. One of the children that I cared for loved this doll very much. Then the child grew up. I left the household and I took the doll with me. Now it seems that it's one of Kelly Louise's favorite things. Seems to pacify her when nothing else can. But it is just a doll with very specially sentimental attachments.
You ready to go, Mike?
Yeah. I'm all set.
May I leave Springfield now?
I explained to you that until this case is closed, no one's free to leave town.
But you may never find Jamie and Silas. They're probably in England now, safely out of your reach.
Do you have a special reason for saying that, Miss Mancini?
No. It would just make sense, wouldn't it? I mean, Silas and Jamie are both from London. That's their home. And their contacts are there. Where else would they go?
With the money they could obtain from the jewels and the gold in that cradle, almost anywhere on earth they damn well please.
Gentlemen, if you're finished in here, I can show you out.
Mr. McCord, I'll be in touch.
What do you want, Helena?
Oh, I just know there's more to this room than all these ghastly boxes. I remember all too well the time I came up here and opened that door and found Violet standing inside like some vicious guard dog. So I know there's more to it than you've told the police.
That is hardly your concern any longer, is it, Helena?
Still, there has to be some secret that Nola and her little friend suggested.
I told you never to use her name, Helena. Never. Now, I want you out of my house. I cannot stand the sight of you even being here.
You should be very grateful to me, Quentin. After all, I could have told Lieutenant Wyatt a lot more about your erratic comings and goings in Europe.
I want you out of my house. I want you to pack your things and get out of my sight forever.
But I can't do that. You heard the lieutenant. I have to stay in Springfield.
In Springfield, yes, but not in my home. Now, I want you out of my house and out of my life for good.
Of course, Quentin. For now.